They said it couldn't happen. They said Bronson Reed was too big, too powerful, too unstoppable to be broken. But on that night, under those blinding lights, we watched a man get destroyed so brutally that the entire wrestling world held its breath in horror. Brock Lesnar didn't just attack Bronson Reed. He didn't just hurt him. He paralyzed him. And what we witnessed wasn't wrestling anymore. It was carnage. It was chaos. It was a savage reminder that when you step into the ring with the Beast Incarnate, you don't just risk your championship dreams, you risk your entire life. This is the story of how one of the most promising powerhouses in WWE was left motionless on the canvas. This is the story of the attack that shocked the world. This is the story of how Brock Lesnar proved once again that he's not just dangerous. He's the most destructive force professional wrestling has ever seen. And if you think you know what happened that night, think again. Because the truth behind this assault is darker, more calculated, and more terrifying than anyone could have imagined. So buckle up. What you're about to hear will make your blood run cold. Let's rewind to understand how we got here. Because this wasn't just a random explosion of violence. This was personal. This was deliberate. This was revenge in its purest, most brutal form. Bronson Reed burst onto the WWE main roster like a freight train with no brakes. Standing 6'3" and weighing over 330 pounds, this Australian powerhouse wasn't just another big man. He was agile. He was athletic. He was ruthless. Week after week, Reed demolished everyone put in front of him. Cruiserweights, veterans, fan favorites. It didn't matter. The tsunami crashed through them all. His signature diving splash from the top rope became the most feared move in WWE. Commentators would lose their minds every time he climbed those turnbuckles because everyone knew what was coming. 330 pounds of pure destruction falling from the sky like a meteor ready to obliterate whoever was unfortunate enough to be lying in that ring. But Bronson Reed made one critical mistake. One fatal error in judgment that would change everything. He started talking. And not just talking. He started calling people out. He started running his mouth about being the most dominant big man in WWE history. He started claiming that the legends of the past couldn't hang with him. He started saying names. Dangerous names. Names you don't say unless you're ready for war. And then he said it. The name that would seal his fate. Brock Lesnar. In a backstage interview that went viral within minutes, Bronson Reed looked directly into the camera with that cocky smirk on his face and declared that Brock Lesnar was overrated. He said the Beast Incarnate was a part-timer who didn't belong in the same conversation as full-time wrestlers like himself. He said if Brock ever came back, Reed would be the one to expose him. He said Lesnar's days of dominance were over, and a new monster was in town. The internet exploded. Wrestling fans around the world started debating, could Bronson Reed actually back up his words? Was he insane for even speaking Brock's name? Or was this the confidence of a man who truly believed he was unstoppable? Here's a question for you watching right now. Be honest. Did Bronson Reed sign his own death warrant the moment he called out Brock Lesnar? Drop your answer in the comments below because this is where things get interesting. Now, 4 weeks after that interview, nothing happened. Brock Lesnar was nowhere to be found. He was on his farm in Saskatchewan, probably laughing at the audacity of this younger wrestler thinking he could say whatever he wanted without consequences. Paul Heyman, Lesnar's longtime advocate and mouthpiece, appeared on WWE programming and simply smiled when asked about Reed's comments. That smile should have been a warning. That smile was the calm before the storm. Because while Bronson Reed continued his path of destruction, racking up victories and making enemies left and right, the Beast was watching, calculating, planning, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And then it was announced. Bronson Reed would defend his momentum in a #1 contender match on Monday Night Raw. Win this match, and he'd be in line for a championship opportunity. The stakes couldn't be higher. Reed's opponent was announced as a returning superstar. The lights would go down. The music would hit, and Bronson Reed would face his biggest challenge yet. At least, that's what WWE wanted everyone to believe. The night of the match arrived. The arena was packed. Thousands of fans buzzing with anticipation. Bronson Reed made his entrance with that same arrogance, that same confidence, that same belief that nothing could stop him. He climbed into the ring, posed for the crowd, and waited. The lights dimmed. The audience leaned forward. And then, speakers throughout the arena erupted with a sound that made everyone's heart skip a beat. That primal, aggressive, earth-shattering entrance music that could only mean one thing. Brock Lesnar was here. The Beast Incarnate stormed down that ramp like a force of nature. No theatrics. No posing. Just pure, focused intensity. Paul Heyman wasn't even with him. This wasn't about promos or hype. This was about violence. The referee tried to establish order, but you could see it in his eyes. He knew this wasn't going to be a wrestling match. This was going to be a fight. And not the kind of fight that ends with a pinfall or submission. The kind that ends with ambulances and stretchers. The bell rang, and for a moment, just a brief moment, Bronson Reed and Brock Lesnar stood face to face. Reed tried to maintain his composure, tried to show he wasn't intimidated, but you could see the shift, the realization washing over his face. The understanding that calling out the Beast and actually standing across the ring from him were two very different things. Lesnar smiled. Not a happy smile. A predator's smile. The smile of someone who knows exactly what's about to happen and is going to enjoy every second of it. They locked up in the center of the ring, and immediately, Brock overpowered him. Reed, this massive powerhouse who had been throwing people around for months, was lifted off his feet like he weighed nothing and thrown across the ring. He crashed into the corner turnbuckles with a sickening thud. Before he could even process what happened, Lesnar was on him, delivering brutal shoulder thrusts into Reed's midsection. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Each one driving the air out of Reed's lungs, each one more vicious than the last. Reed tried to fight back. He landed a few strikes, managed to create some separation, and even hit Lesnar with a running shoulder block that would have dropped most men, but Brock barely moved. He absorbed the impact, tilted his head to the side like he was genuinely disappointed, and then exploded forward with a clothesline that nearly decapitated Bronson Reed. The sound of impact echoed throughout the arena. Fans gasped. This wasn't competitive. This was an execution. But Brock wasn't done. Not even close. He pulled Reed up and delivered a German suplex that sent the big man flying across the ring. And then another. And another. Suplex after suplex after suplex. By the fifth one, Reed wasn't even trying to land properly anymore. His body was just ragdolling through the air, crashing onto the mat with bone-crushing force each time. The referee looked concerned. Commentary was silent, struggling to find words for what they were witnessing. This had gone beyond a match. This was a message being sent. Question time. Who do you think has faced more brutal beatdowns in WWE? Bronson Reed in this match or anyone else who crossed Brock Lesnar? Let me know your thoughts in the comments because we're only halfway through this nightmare. Brock finally stopped the suplex barrage and stood over Reed's broken body. You'd think this is where he'd go for the pin, where he'd end the match and move on, but that's not what happened. Lesnar looked down at Reed, then looked toward the corner of the ring, specifically, at the top turnbuckle, and a sick realization swept through everyone watching. Brock wasn't finished delivering punishment. He was about to add insult to injury in the most devastating way possible. Lesnar grabbed Reed's lifeless body and dragged him into position, center of the ring. Then the Beast did something almost no one has ever seen him do. He climbed to the second rope. Not the top rope, but the second, positioning himself for maximum impact. The crowd was on its feet, half in excitement, half in horror, because everyone knew what was coming. Brock Lesnar, 286 pounds of pure muscle and aggression, was about to come crashing down on Bronson Reed. And when he did, when those knees drove into Reed's chest with the force of a car crash, the entire arena winced. The impact was so brutal, so devastating, that Reed's body literally bounced off the mat. But even that wasn't enough. Even that didn't satisfy whatever darkness was driving Brock Lesnar that night. Because as Reed lay there, gasping for air, clutching his ribs, barely conscious, Lesnar pulled him up one more time. This time for the F5. The most destructive finishing move in WWE. The move that has ended careers and crushed dreams. Lesnar hoisted Reed onto his shoulders, spun him around, and launched him into the air. But he didn't just execute a normal F5. He threw Reed with extra force, extra velocity, making sure the big man's body twisted awkwardly before crashing face first into the canvas. The sound was sickening. The thud reverberated through the speakers. And when Brock finally stepped back, Bronson Reed wasn't moving. At all. No writhing in pain. No clutching body parts. No rolling to the outside. Nothing. Just complete, terrifying stillness. The referee immediately waved his arms in an X formation. The universal signal that something is seriously wrong. Medical staff sprinted down the ramp. Commentary stopped calling the action and started expressing genuine concern. Brock Lesnar, meanwhile, simply walked to the corner, leaned against the turnbuckles, and watched the chaos unfold with cold, emotionless eyes. No remorse. No concern. Just satisfaction. He had done exactly what he came to do. Doctors surrounded Bronson Reed, carefully checking his neck and spine. They brought out a stretcher. Then a neck brace. The entire process felt like it was happening in slow motion. Fans who had been cheering for violence moments earlier were now silent, worried, realizing they might have just witnessed something truly horrible. Social media exploded with reactions. Hashtags started trending. Videos of the attack circulated instantly. And one word kept appearing in every post, every tweet, every comment. Paralyzed. Because that's what it looked like. Bronson Reed, the unstoppable force who had been demolishing everyone in his path, was being carefully placed on a stretcher with a neck brace, completely immobilized. His eyes were open, but there was a blankness to them, a trauma, a realization that he had pushed the wrong person and paid the ultimate price. As they wheeled him up the ramp, cameras caught a single tear rolling down his face. Not from physical pain, though there was surely plenty of that, but from the devastating reality that his career, his dreams, everything he had worked for might be over in one savage, calculated attack. Brock Lesnar finally left the ring, walking up that ramp with Paul Heyman, who had appeared from somewhere backstage. Heyman was saying something to Brock, but the Beast wasn't listening. He was staring straight ahead, no emotion on his face, looking like he had just completed a routine task. To him, this wasn't personal. This wasn't emotional. This was business. This was a reminder. This was Brock Lesnar reasserting his dominance and making sure everyone in that locker room, everyone watching at home, and everyone who ever thought about calling him out understood one simple truth. You don't talk about the Beast. You don't challenge the Beast. And you certainly don't disrespect the Beast unless you're prepared to face consequences that will haunt you for the rest of your life. Now here's where the story gets even more twisted. Because in the days following the attack, more information started coming out. And what we learned made this entire situation even more disturbing. According to backstage sources, this wasn't just Brock responding to disrespect. This was WWE management allowing, maybe even encouraging, Lesnar to make an example out of someone. Think about it. Bronson